On this episode of Horror News Radio, the Grue-Crew review, The Fanatic. I am your host, Doc Rodden, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. Back with me again this week are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co-host on the net, starting off with the one and only Dave Dreher, lead news writer at Gruesome Magazine. Dave, how you doing?
Doc, I am good. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Are you ready to review The Fanatic?
I am. I have things to say.
Well, that's good that you're on a podcast with things to say. I've made the right choice to bring you here.
Yeah, that does work out much better. It'd be really bad if it would be like I have things to draw, because that wouldn't help things, would it?
No, it wouldn't. We do have a special guest tonight.
You know, I heard through the word on the street.
Word on the street?
Word on the street is that this man was in the studio. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm waiting for the official announcement from you.
Well, this is the official announcement. Joining us tonight from Gruesome Magazine podcast is Jeff Mohr. Jeff, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. Man on the street. I think Dave just went out on the street to look for tornadoes.
Yeah, there's some crazy weather going through.
And I have things to listen to. Maybe that's not a good match. I don't know.
I've got two edits. Yay! Jeff, welcome to H&R. I'm glad to have you here, bud.
It's great to be here. It's been a while.
It has been a while. But you've been doing a lot of podcasts, though, for us, haven't you?
Yeah, somehow Chad and I actually are kind of the Decades of Horror dynamic duo or something. I don't know.
That works. Let's go with that.
Double dipshits, maybe.
Double dipshits. Dynamic dipshits. Let's go with that.
So anyway, yeah, classic era and 70s. And then we kicked off a return of Decades of Horror 1980s just a week or so ago with Bill Mulligan and Crystal Cleveland.
What film did you do?
We did City of the Living Dead, the first of Fulci's The Gates of Hell trilogy.
Yeah. Now I've always known that film as The Gates of Hell, but it actually isn't, is it?
It's like most foreign films or European films. For some reason, when they come to the U.S., they give them another name, and then sometimes another name, and sometimes another name. They just keep dating.
That's true. But that is one of my favorites.
That's a fun movie.
It's a blast. It's a blast. You guys did a great job.
Oh, great. I was going to ask you about that if you had a chance.
Yes. What's the next one you're doing?
Reanimator.
Well, that's a good choice.
Yeah, that was Crystal's choice.
I was going to say, who picked that one?
Yeah. I'm always happy to get a look at Barbara Crampton.
Well.
And a look you get in this one.
I was going to say, there's not much left to the imagination.
What are you guys saying? What are you talking about?
Don't get ahead of yourself. Yes. Well, you also do the Gruesome Magazine podcast with us each week, and this is more in line with the kind of films we covered there. We have a terrific slate in September for that, but this is called The Fanatic that we're covering tonight. It was originally called Moose. It's from director Fred Durst. Many people might remember him from Limp, Bizkit. But this is not his first directorial effort. I thought it was, but he directed two films. One's called The Education of Charlie Banks, and the other one's called Longshots. And he's done, of course, a lot of shorts and a lot more music videos.
Yeah, a lot of music videos.
Which makes sense. He wrote the film along with Dave Bekerman. The film stars John Travolta, Devon, Sawa, from Final Destination, Idle Hands, and Anna Golja or Golja. How would you pronounce her name, Jeff?
Sounds good.
Either way? All right.
I mean, phonetically, it's Golja. But
Golja. That's probably right. I was getting the wrong O sound. This is why I should never be pronouncing names, but I do it every week. Sad times. Well, all right.
I don't know if she's German. It could be Golja.
It could.
I don't know.
Could be Gola. Could be entirely silent. We should find out. That's our job, isn't it?
Born in Toronto.
It's probably French. The release date is August 30th, 2019, just a few days ago as we're recording this. It's about a rabid fan named Moose, played by John Travolta, who stalks an action hero and destroys the star's life. That only scratches the surface of what this film is about. Let's find out what our first impression of The Fanatic may be. Jeff Mohr, you're our guest, so start us off.
Oh, sure. So this is a tough one, I think, to wrap my head around, mostly because the character that John Travolta plays, Moose, it's hard to tell exactly. They're either mentally challenged in some way or somewhere on the autism spectrum or a little bit of both. It's hard to say, but he has obvious physical sort of tics and habits that differentiate him from the average person. So it's hard for me to know whether that is, would be offensive or not to somebody with those conditions. So with that being said, I enjoyed the movie. He was very consistent throughout. I have a feeling that he's going to, it may be a bad career move. There's a lot of negative stuff out there on the internet. I think a lot of negative reviews, etc. But and it's a tough thing within the culture of this particular time to take on a normal actor playing somebody in that condition and not, there are motivations throughout, but he does cross the line in a couple places, or as I've seen in a couple interviews, he says he nukes the line of both he and the actor. So he's a fan of an actor, and this particular actor, Hunter Dunbar, is not a particularly. He seems like a nice guy, but he does not react well to somebody like Moose and doesn't pick up that he's different at all. So when Moose, who's obsessed beyond all things, he spends a bunch of money, he buys a vest, that was used by Hunter Dunbar in one of his movies, and wants to get it signed. And when he crosses the line and kind of chases him out into the street, things don't go well. And he is rebuffed by Hunter Dunbar, and from there it just kind of goes downhill because he keeps he just can't help himself. He figures out where he lives and he goes there. So there's that going on. There's also other people involved. He's got two what appear to be real friends. The shop owner, I think it's a poster shop or movie art, that sells him the vests, seems to get him and genuinely like him and enjoys having him around. And then he's got a friend named Leah who is kind of an oxymoron, or I shouldn't say that because I don't know any real ones, but a paparazzi that actually has some ethics about personal space and private property and things like that. But everybody else, it's like they don't even take the time to get that he's different. The bouncers just manhandle him and throw him out. They're not really being very nice or patient with him. There's a couple of street performers that are like the worst kind of bullies right out of junior high, making fun of him and calling him names, and then think nothing of actually asking for his help at the same time. And then at one point get into some physical abuse, I think. And then there's a guard that cares about him, a security guard that's in that area. So I don't know where I'm going with this other than, he takes this gradual progression and treatment from this actor to a sort of a horrifying series of events and conclusion that do not go well for either him or the actor. I don't want to give too much away here. I think Travolta does a really good job. I think the actors in general are pretty good. I bought into it. Travolta, whatever he's trying to portray, he was very consistent and stayed true to that character that he had built. And the actor is pretty much the same. He kind of seems like in some areas of a life he's a nice guy, but he gets off on the wrong foot with Moose, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, you might want to say that Hunter Dunbar is a dick.
I was gonna go with douche, but yeah.
75% of the time. I mean, yes. I don't know.
95%.
Yeah. Okay. It's nice to his kid. It seems like.
Well, that's the 5%. And even then, you wonder.
Right? Okay, I'll buy that.
Oh man, but yeah. In addition to it being acted well, it's also directed well. I think Fred Durst does a good job. I'll get to my first impression here in a minute, but I need to find out what the one and only Dave Dreher thinks of The Fanatic.
I really enjoyed this film a lot. I really wasn't expecting to, but I think John Travolta really gives an exceptional performance here as Moose. I really kind of wish they would have kept the title, because the movie was titled Moose for the longest time, and they changed it to The Fanatic. And I really think the title Moose would have actually served it a little better. But I mean, most of the high points were hit there in Jeff's little rundown of things. But and I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit more as we get going here. But I really think he gave an exceptional performance. People seem to be judging this film just on the fact that it's not making any money, but it really wasn't marketed per se by anyone. But I think anybody that takes the time to sit down and watch this, and this will probably be going straight to a streaming service or, cable provider, something like that, HBO, one of those. And if you take the time, it's got Eddie and the Cruisers syndrome. Remember Eddie and the Cruisers? It played in theaters and everybody laughed at it. And 15 years later, it's like a mega hit and they end up making a sequel and all that stuff. I think this is going to be kind of the same. The audience is going to have to find this one. But I think it's a pretty exceptional look into the life of a man who has a true love for someone, and when he finally gets a moment to share that love with that person, that infatuation, the person rebuffs him and things go badly. So I found it fascinating. I really liked it. Yeah,
your comment about will people find this film? I was thinking the opposite, that this film is probably about 20 years too late. With the current times and, the current environment we live in, that the care for, the disabilities that they're portraying is the performance is a little over top for me, although it is incredibly consistent that, he becomes this character. I mean, physically, the way he acts,
even the way he walks. I mean, the way he walks with his shoulders kind of slumped forward. And
cadence, everything. Yeah. He is certainly in this role. I was incredibly troubled by the role. So I really liked this film and I really hated this film all at the same time. I'm really torn about what to say about this film because I'm not really sure if it said what it was at, if it actually made the point it was out to say. It makes a number of points, but not necessarily the overarching point in my opinion. It's it explores the how this fan doesn't understand the boundaries and breaks those boundaries. It explores how the the star, sees it from his point of view, maybe successfully, maybe not. Because they make him such a dick. If they made him a little bit more, a little less of a dick and a little bit more complex, I think some of the what am I trying to say? Some of the suspense might have been a little more amped, because you kind of don't care if he does anything to him because he's such a dick. You can't.
Yeah, right. That's 100% true. And really, when we get that kind of misery moment at about the 2/3 moment, we get the him on the bed, and he kind of starts playing the game a little bit, and he gives him that line of like, I can't remember what it was, something about I'm your fan, I'm nothing without you, you're my fan, and I'm nothing without you. And that's what Moose wanted to hear. That's what he wanted to hear. And of course, he's lying, but why couldn't he have said that? If he'd have said that line the first time they meet, and he's trying to get that vest signed, then it'd have been a 15-minute movie.
Yeah, it would have been.
Because nothing would have happened. Moose would have gone home and wore that vest to bed at night, and all would have been right with the world. I
think if Moose would have done, if Moose was, can't think of the right word to use, but an average person, then I would have been more on Hunter Dunbar's side. The stuff that he did right off at the beginning was over the line.
Right, but it's obvious when you meet Moose that
right.
That he is a special needs person. And again, you certainly can't get into what Durst's politics on this was, but he could be making the point of someone like the Moose character perhaps should not be out on his own without some type of supervision, even if it's just a weekly visit by a caseworker or something like that. Moose is basically out. He's out living his life. Nobody's taking care of him. Nobody's watching out for him. So I don't know if Durst was trying to make that point with this movie, because Moose escalates because there's no one there to check his escalation. And, so I don't know. Is that something Durst was trying to say or not? I guess that's open for interpretation.
I don't know. I don't know. But he does, because Moose has the job as a street performer. Basically, if you've ever been to LA or even Vegas, they have these people that are on the streets that dress up as famous stars, and they want you to get their picture taken with them and give them money for that picture, right? It's and he's what, a Keystone Cop?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
English Bobby.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think if you're going into movies, it's a Keystone Cop. I guess I would have. Yeah. That's how I took it. But but he still has the accent and everything, and he's acting silly. But it's they go out of their way to make him sympathetic, right? Because they make his appreciation or affection or his love for Hunter Dunbar. They make it authentic, right, for his character, and honest, and even though it's too far, right? It's unchecked, like you said. They also give him morals, because the street magician wants him to pickpocket for him, and he won't do it, right? Because he's not going to do that. He's not going to steal from people. So they go a long way to make him sympathetic. So when it comes to the point that he breaks into the house, you are struggling. Who do you side with? Because, even though, the actor's a real prick, it's he's not wrong in getting upset that this guy's crossing the line and entering, coming down his street even, getting into his yard.
It's just the way he deals with it.
Right. He could be a human, right? He could be, apply a little human kindness to somebody, but I don't know if our society, it's weird. And maybe that's what they're really trying to say, is that our society is more in line of how Hunter acts.
Right? The people who are different or challenged, or maybe perhaps you have a hard time understanding their motivations, are to be ignored or shied away from, or Yeah, I mean, I think that's I definitely got that vibe from the whole movie. That nobody took the time to understand Moose's motivation. Even the people who he thinks are his friends were kind of in a way using him. To a degree.
Are you troubled at all that there aren't really any other fans truly portrayed in this? Right, there's a line at one point where he's
they're all very orderly,
right? But you know, that's come and go real quick.
We've all been to enough conventions, though. I mean, again, I see it. I see it all the time. They line them up and they shuffle them through, and every now and then, again, having done conventions with Tom for years and everything else, you get every now and then you get these fans that just want to spend some time. They don't want to just be pushed through. Here's your $20. Thank you. Next. And they don't. They want to talk about their favorite scene or their favorite effect or whatever. And you get somebody with a little psychosis going on, it can maybe lead to bad things potentially,
right.
And, I mean, I think that's what they showed here. I don't think Moose in this film is a bad guy. I really don't think he is.
Do you think he's supposed to represent fandom, or is he just representing the extreme? I mean, I know from my point of view, he's just representing the extreme, but what I'm asking is, what do you think the director and the writer are trying to say?
Well, from what I understand, the script was written from an experience that Fred Durst actually had with a fan. It's kind of autobiographical, if you will. He had a stalker fan, who showed up at his house, and I don't think there was any of the mishaps that we've seen, like with the housekeeper, and stuff like that. But that was certainly embellished, but this was drawn from a personal experience. And again, I've seen it firsthand myself. I've watched similar situations occur, and I've seen it handled properly, and I've seen it handled poorly. I would say for the purpose of this film, it was handled to the extreme end of poorly. But I mean, there was a little bit of, it certainly helped the story for things to escalate like they did in the movie. But I mean, I think it's based in reality. Those things happen.
It's a little bit like a perfect storm too, because there's sort of this escalating thing going on between Moose and Hunter Dunbar, but then he's also has the interactions with these other pair of street performers that are,
they're egging him on. Yeah,
they're egging him on, and he's getting advice from a couple different directions to stand up for himself and don't let people do that to
right.
him. And
but I mean, that scene where he breaks into the house and he's like sitting there watching TV while Hunter sleeps, and he goes over and kind of gives him a kiss on the forehead. Yeah. It was equal amounts creepy and sweet.
Yes.
All at the same time. And it's just kind of like, oh my God, I feel bad for this guy, but not really.
Can we go with 100% creepy here?
Yeah.
When he sticks his finger behind his ear so he can smell it. I could have done without any of that.
But those are all tics that you see in people sometimes. I mean, it's unfortunate, but they exist.
He kept doing it.
Yeah, he did, but that just plays.
Then he did Hunter Dunbar's ear.
That's what I'm saying. That's the creepy part.
But it worked. It was in a way kind of brilliant at the same time. I mean, it really truly was. It's little things like that really, for me, make this performance stand out. That commitment to character.
It was, he was committed. He definitely was. I will give him that. And I thought that Devon. Sawa, if I'm pronouncing his last name right, did a great job too. God, he reminded me of somebody. I'm trying to think of what actor he reminded me of. That's not himself.
Which one was he? Devon played.
He played Hunter.
He reminded me. Who's the guy that plays Hawkeye? He reminded me of the guy that plays Hawkeye.
Exactly, Jeremy Renner. Yes,
a couple times I was like, "Is that Jeremy Renner?"
I was like, if they ever need a new Hawkeye. This is the guy they need to do. Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. And okay, so there were some things about me. Okay, so spoilers ahead, folks. If you haven't seen this, we're going to dive into spoilers. So the second time he sneaks into the yard, right, or the house for that matter, he's confronted by the maid, And the maids
who Hunter's apparently slept with on occasion.
Well, yes. So the maid's like beating him with like a I don't even know, some kind of red fabric. I'm not really sure what it is.
A dusting cloth or something.
Yeah. Dusting cloth, just smacking the hell out of him, and he reacts by punching her. And then she falls back and hits her head on the concrete bird bath and dies with a broken nose. And he's quickly distracted by the tinkling that he realizes the house is open, that she left the door open, right? Okay. All that's fair and good, because that's like he doesn't even realize what's happening, right? And,
he knows. He goes, well, that's a nosebleed. That's not good.
Well, he knows that, but he doesn't know the extent of it.
No, he doesn't know she's
because
dead.
He didn't die when he had a nosebleed, so he doesn't know that she died. So he thought she would feel better, right? So he goes in. Now, I am pretty certain that a couple days pass, right? And she just stays out there in the backyard. Yeah. Nobody notices. He doesn't notice. Nobody passing by knows.
That's why. And I wondered about that as the film went on. I'm like, did Dunbar find the maid laying out in the yard? Because I don't remember there being any resolution to that. And then, like towards the end of the film, we see her still laying there.
Yeah. And we do find out that somebody did find her, and that's why the cops show up. But I found it a little that stretched it, Fred. Of all the things, that stretched it.
I guess that didn't stretch it for me. The way the house was built, there was fences around that were completely covered with, I don't know,
and him being so self-centered, self-centered,
But he had the kid with him. The kid never went out in the yard. I guess not. Huh? I guess you don't do that nowadays.
Yeah, I don't know. I did find it
didn't bother me.
Well, and I just found it weird as the movie progressed along. I realized that there had been no resolution to her death, and I just found myself wondering about it. That was all.
Yeah, we do get it, though. We do. All right, so there's not much true violence or graphic effects, really. I mean, she has a little bit of nosebleeds and stuff like that, and then there's the fake thing that the street musicians does. But other than that, there really isn't anything until the last 30 minutes, right? When Hunter Dunbar gets himself free, right? He negotiates his freedom, and it gets pretty real and pretty rough. Dave, did those effects work for you?
They did. Yeah, they really did. I really honestly, because like you said, it's a 90-minute runtime, and I would say for 80 of those minutes, there's really nothing. In the blood category, a little bit like the maid, with the nose and that type stuff. But when he blows Moose's fingers off, that was pretty damn graphic. It really was, and it looked good. It looked real good. It really did. I was kind of impressed by it, and again, kind of horrified by it. Again, it just seemed like real over the top violence on Hunter's part. There was really no reason. Once he was free and he had control of Moose, I don't know why he felt the need to have to. Because he shoots him in both ears, or he shoots on either side.
Well, he shoots on either side, yeah.
Stabs him in the eye, and then he blows it. I'm like, all right, this is kind of overkill. You got the guy down at this point. There's really
he was charged at this. I mean, he was on adrenaline because he was going to shoot him in the head, and that he ran out of ammo, right? And that's when he got him in the eye. So
yeah. But still, it just seemed I for some reason, and I can't explain it, I just felt a little bit of an affection towards the Moose character. I wanted to see him get help, not get hurt. Because I think he was a victim of the circumstances he found himself in, and people's ignorance about whatever ailment he was suffering from led to the situation he found himself in. And I wanted him to find help. I didn't want him getting hurt in that way. Because I think I told you guys in the opening, in real life, if that type of person were around me, I'd probably be their friend. I just would. And so that I found that troubling. I actually found myself disliking the Dunbar character. I no longer felt any pity for what he was going through.
Oh no, they don't make him. Yeah, there's no sympathy for him at all. They make him a total prick, and I'm not really sure I'm not convinced the filmmakers are in your camp 100%.
I would agree with that statement.
I feel like I think the only reason that it ends the way it ends is because they kind of want to have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that the narration was an afterthought.
Yeah, I could see that as well.
But that's just me guessing.
Do you think that Travolta had any inkling of making this movie that there could possibly be some award consideration for this type of portrayal? It just seemed that way to me. Like
that he's after that?
Yeah, so he was so vested in this.
There's a little too, for me, there's a little too much, just a little too much Forrest Gump in it.
Yeah. Did you notice a couple times he sounded like Barbarino? Remember Barbarino from the old Welcome Back, Kotter days? Yeah. He actually kind of slipped into that Welcome Back, Kotter voice. Yeah, like 2 or 3 different occasions. I'm like, oh my God. That's Barbarino. That's him. It was interesting. It was usually it was when he was upset, when he was irritated about something.
Really? I was with you, Dave, on the sort of the scene in the Dunbar's house, because even though it is, on one hand it's creepier than hell, right? I mean, I've read stuff about how Ted Bundy used to like walk into people's houses and stand and watch them sleep and stuff. If that doesn't make your skin crawl. And so here was Moose doing that. But then once you're right, once he gets free, it's really creepy. And Moose tied him up, but he never physically hurt him. He never did anything to him.
Not on purpose. He did cut him when he.
Oh, by accident.
With the fake knife.
But if not a cut, just a a surface wound.
and that whole scene was really kind of good, where he's reenacting the different movie scenes for Hunter while he's tied on the bed. He comes in with the Jason mask and all that other stuff. I thought that was kind of enjoyable. Yeah,
and he was so proud of himself for fooling Hunter.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was a lot to like about this guy. I mean, there really truly was. But like I said, he definitely, like they said in the movie, fucking nukes the line. There's no doubt about it. But still, at the same point, as is, I guess, the case in life many, many times, the reaction to the situation is much worse than the situation itself.
Yeah. Well, the tagline's "When Hollywood dream becomes a nightmare." So that's definitely what it is, right?
Yeah.
It reminded me of the way it's structured. It reminded me of the films like the guy that does Bone Tomahawk. I'm talking about. Ask Craig Zahler. He builds these movies that they don't really go over the top until like the very end, and then when they do, you're just like, wow. But this is basically like a poor man's home invasion film.
Yeah, kind of a poor man's misery, if you will.
Yeah, there's a little bit of
a little bit of that in there.
Misery, envy in there too. Yeah,
but the whole thing rests on you buying into Travolta's performance, and if you don't, like you said, Ducky, for you it was kind of a little over the top, so you kind of tuned out. It became kind of maybe even borderline offensive. In some respects, where with myself, I totally bought it. I was impressed as hell with how he totally committed to this role. But I can also see your point where it would be like, holy shit, seriously, So it could go either way.
I agree with you that he was totally committed, and I was impressed with his commitment. What I question is the choices, right? He made the choices and he lived by the choices. So I don't, and that's why I'm torn, right? It's because I see what you're doing and you went there, but man, did you have to?
Exactly.
Did it really have to go that far?
Yeah. And I see that point. That is a valid point that needs to be addressed.
Because he could have played a little bit more subtle and it still would have played the same way.
Yeah. Can't argue that point with you. Because you're right, Doc. As always, once again.
Rarely, actually, but that's fine. All right, well, I guess we should wrap this up and give our final thoughts, our score, and favorite scene for The Fanatic. Jeff, I'm going to turn to you again. Start us off.
Okey-dokey. Again, I think, I'm with you guys. I don't know for sure what Durst is going for. Is he trying to depict the worst of fandom within this character of Moose, but yet he kind of backs off and gives him this softer edge that you sort of feel for him. It's a very strange. It's hard to know what he's going for, and then the ending sort of, goes that direction as well. Despite his injuries, Moose's injuries. I guess and the other thing about this is, not once was I was totally engrossed in this movie from beginning to end. I don't know if I want to call it a slow burn, but it's like Dave said, it goes quite a ways, or like Doc said too, without any extreme or gory violence, but it has, there are scenes of tension. He has interactions and conflicts with several characters when he tries to sneak into that party, and you just know something's going to happen because he's not going to fit in. and then kind of the same thing. You wonder what he's going to do when he's in line at that at the signing. That turns out to go down on Dunbar, but I'm going to give this a 3.5, but with the kind of a caveat, I guess, is because I don't know how I feel about the portrayal of this character and putting him in that place. So I'm being kind of a weasel about that, I guess. Weasel words, coward, chicken. I just don't know for sure yet. But my favorite scene, I think the scene where I kind of went, oh, this is crazy, we brought it up, was when Hunter's out from the sleeping pills and he's sitting and Moose is sitting in the chair next to him, and he's trying to get the selfie, and then he comes over and kisses him and gets a selfie, and then rubs the back of Hunter's ear with his fingers and then smells them. Those just, I was like, I didn't know whether to laugh or
throw up.
Yeah,
astonishment. Yeah. It was great.
But I think that was the purpose of the scene. And just so you know, Doc, when we finally do meet, I'm going to rub my finger in the back of your ear.
Don't, please, no.
It's happening. It's happening. It's going down.
I love the shop owner's reaction when he does it. Right?
Yes.
All right, Dave Dreher, what's your final thoughts, your score and favorite scene for The Fanatic?
Well, I think we're all kind of in agreement that we're a little bit torn on this movie, and I'm not educated enough to be able to tell you if Travolta's performance is realistic, to whatever condition it is that he is supposed to be depicting. I just know that Travolta managed to make me feel for him, or feel for the character. And really kind of side with him, even though so much of what he was doing was completely wrong. I still, kind of wanted to walk up there and go, "Come on, Moose, let's go have some coffee," and I think everything's going to be okay. And I think that's a testament to Travolta's great acting in this role. I'm also going to give it a 3.5, but with the permission to, perhaps as the year progresses and I watch it a few more times, to possibly upgrade that a few ticks. This one could maybe move up the more time I give it.
Do you think it will pop into your top 10?
Oh, I don't know. We got a lot of stuff coming yet, and there's here of late we've seen some really good stuff. I don't know at this point if it's top 10 worthy, but potentially it'd definitely be top 20.
Oh, there you go.
So we'll see. We'll have to see where that goes. Favorite scene. Jeff already kind of stole my favorite scene.
Uh-oh.
So now I'm going to have to make up one. So I guess I'll go with being the self-proclaimed gorehound here. I'll go with the fight at the end where Hunter Dunbar goes all action hero on his ass and stabs him in the eye and blows off his hand and all that. I guess it was an inevitable conclusion to how that whole interaction was going to end. But it does the violence because of the fact the film has been so like slow burn or really not much going on, so character driven up to that point, to suddenly get this flurry of graphic violence seemed to make it even more shocking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that. I like that he just opened. Well, I'm spoilers. I'm not going to do that. Okay. So I am, like I said, I am torn with this movie. I'm very conflicted. I like a lot of it, and I dislike a lot of it. I do agree that Travolta's performance is remarkable. I'm not entirely convinced it's not troubling, and maybe, yeah. I'm just like, oh, that it made me groan and moan, but at the same time, it was so, like you said, he absolutely makes you feel for him and side with him. Like, you realize that he's the one that you're sympathizing for, and should you be? And I don't know, maybe
you just want Moose to get the vest autograph. That's it.
I know. It's like, and
give the man his autograph vest.
Don't burn the vest. So yeah, I don't. Jeff, I don't think you're the chicken. I think I might be the chicken because I can't commit one way or the other because I'm going to give it a 2.5. It didn't knock my socks off the way it could have or perhaps should have, because I think the topic that they're trying to tackle certainly, has. If we haven't seen it in our own lives, like Dave, I know that you're a little bit closer to it than maybe we are. We've all been in, conventions and stuff and seen, fandom at its best and its worst. But we've read in the news, the ones that really go south, right? There's been a number of cases where, people show up in somebody's house or, even steal stuff and get in, right? There's all kinds of crap like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's an invasion in privacy. It's a home invasion. It's a lot of things. It's this, boundaries that blur, because of the what houses, because of the entertainment of it, right? People of what these people do, the actors and stuff, and people think they know them, right? They know them when they really don't, and it's a very one-sided relationship, right? So I think it touches on that, but I'm not entirely convinced it does it in the best way. So yeah, I'm 2.5. I'll just shut up now because my favorite.
You're gonna talk yourself into a 3.
No. My favorite scene though is it's after he's in the house and Hunter hasn't come home yet. Although I did like those scenes, Jeff. But he's walking around the house, he's checking things out, and he comes out of the bathroom, and I'm like, okay, that's just creepy as hell that somebody goes into your house and uses your bathroom. Is just like, I don't know why that bothered me.
Uses your toothbrush.
Well, so between that, yeah. But he comes out and he's holding one of like these scripts and he's reading. He goes, that's a bad script. And then he checks out his pills, right? And he sees, one pill's for sleeping and one pill's for insomnia, and he's like, or one's to go to sleep and one's not, and one's to wake up, right? I forgot, I can't remember. But anyway, it's just like he's you're all messed up, right? And he's coming to an entirely different conclusion, of this guy as he gets to know him and through the stuff in his house. I thought it was hilarious.
I thought it was fun when he was not to get too sidetracked, but when they kept showing him he was hiding in different places of the house when they came in, how he was under the kid's bed.
Oh, yeah.
Put the kid to sleep.
Hey, and he reaches out and gets the one toy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. It's all kind of creepy. It's all kind of creepy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there it is. The Fanatic. It was filmed under the title Moose, which I agree with you, Dave. I kind of like that better.
Yeah. I do too.
So it's out now on VOD. So look for it. And if you check it out, let us know what you think. To do that, use feedback at horrornewsradio.com, or you can find our Facebook group, or go to gruesomemagazine.com and leave a comment on the show notes. Yes, you could do that. If you'd like to help H&R, support H&R, you can do so by spreading the word. Share the podcast. Tell your friends. Review it on iTunes. That's the best way to help. We could also use, we got to pay for these things sometimes. We got to pay. We got to pay for hosting and stuff. So if you want to pitch in, you can go to horrornewsradio.com/Patreon, and you get some perks and fun things there. If you like T-shirts, you can go to horrornewsradio.com/tees. That's TEES, and pick up a Gruesome Magazine or a H&R T-shirt, or some really cool shirts that are designed by Chad Hunt, who Jeff Mohr mentioned earlier.
Go Chad! Hey, we need a Decades of Horror T-shirt.
We do. We need 3 of them. We need one for each decade, right? Each show. All right. We want to thank Rocky Gray for our killer H&R theme song. It's awesome, right, Dave?
Still rocking after all these years.
All these years. There's a song in there somewhere. All right. Coming soon to our reviews is It Chapter 2. Dave, I've got to say, this is probably one of the 2 top movies you're looking forward to this year, right?
Yeah, it really truly is. And the fact that the advanced buzz is so strong, I'm really hoping for special things.
Special things. And I would imagine the second one on your list, if not the first, and this is the second, is Dr. Sleep.
Yes, it's a big fall for Stephen King fans. Between the 2 movies and his new book coming out, it's going to be King Euphoria.
Yes. Yeah. All right, Dave, Jeff, I want to thank you for joining me.
Well, of course.
You're welcome.
I like that. All right, let's say good night.
Good night.
Good night.